The world is driving towards more sustainable hardware. In short, either lower power consumption or more effective use of the waste heat that comes from these systems. This is going to continue to increase, especially if we think about AI computational requirements over the next few years.
Now, there have been lots of suggestions of what to do with data centers, so we can put them in Scandinavia, where the air temperature is really low, and you can use that instead of HVAC systems, air conditioning type systems, or liquid cooling. There have been even stories about let's replace radiators in modern homes with servers to do compute, and that can also heat the home as well. Now, what's in the news today comes from the UK, because of course it does, using servers to heat swimming pools. Now, I don't know if you're like me, but I used to use swimming pools as a child. Maybe a lot of you do today. Communal swimming pools, you pay a couple of quid and you get to go into the swimming pool in a dedicated session, either free-for-all or a class. It's probably a lot more than a couple of quid now. And the whole point is that is a leisure centre with facilities to use all year round. News today is that there's a company who is going to work with Exmouth Leisure Centre to install 12 servers using a combination of mineral oil submerged servers running, based on their pictures, what looks like a single socket with 4 NVIDIA GPUs. Then pumping that oil around using a heat exchanger, and then in that heat exchanger heating the pool water as it gets circulated around. And according to the press release, this will transfer about 96% of the waste energy from the server. However, based on my mathematics, it doesn't seem that could be enough, right? So depending on what news website you look at and what estimates on cost, if I take one website that was saying that costs to heat a swimming pool in the UK are about £300,000 a year. Now, leisure centre swimming pools, they could be Olympic size, they could be half size. It doesn't actually say which this swimming pool is, but £300,000 a year, price per unit energy. What's the output of these 12 servers? Now, if you think about the servers in the press release, say they'll be used for AI and compute and all sorts of other different workloads. But if we go off the picture that they've shown of 4 NVIDIA high-end GPUs, these are passive, normally forced air, but they're using mineral oil here. If they're about their PCIe cards, maybe 350 watts a piece. There's 4 of them, so that's 1400 watts, plus a CPU, plus everything else, probably about 2000 watts. 12 of those is 24 kilowatts when it's at full. So this is essentially the equivalent of one server rack in a standard colo. And is 24 kilowatts enough to heat a swimming pool? Well, the key metric here is what's the thermal capacity of water. And if I'm right, it's around 4.2 kilojoules per kilo per Kelvin. So we're speaking about a whole mass of water that takes a lot of energy to heat up. Now, water has a relatively high heat capacity compared to any other chemical on the planet. That's because the water, H2O, the oxygen has 2 lone pairs of electrons which do hydrogen bonding to the other water, to the hydrogen atoms on other water molecules. That makes it a very strongly bound liquid. And it's that energy that means that it's that connection that makes water require so much energy in order to heat up. This is why, if you're in the UK at least, and you have a kettle, it takes so long to boil a kettle. A standard kettle will heat 200 mil, which I don't know what that is in cups or fluid ounces, but a cup of tea's amount of water. It will heat it at 3 kilowatts for about 40 to 60 seconds until you get from room temperature water up to sort of 70, 80, 90 degrees water. Now, we're talking an Olympic-sized swimming pool here with an effective 24 kilowatts of output, and that's meant to essentially heat a swimming pool, or at least maintain its temperature. Now, of course, there is other heating apparatus inside the pool to make sure that comes up from the base temperature up to the temperature it's needed. So anything from about 10 degrees up to about 28 to 30 degrees, which is what I read online a standard UK swimming pool is meant to be. Though I suspect now that energy costs a lot more, you may be looking at sort of 26 to 28 anyway. So these swimming pools still have to have the heating equipment installed in order to actually get them up to that temperature and top it off when, say, one of the servers go down. Now, mineral oil PCs, they've been done to death, right? And the main issue there is, if there is an issue, getting in to fix them and replacement is a lot harder than a standard server. I mean, you could argue that perhaps the best way to do all this heat exchange would be through a liquid-cooled server rack, and then you get that warm water and then put that through a heat exchanger. There are a lot of different ways to do it. I'm not sure this is necessarily the best method because A, mineral oil, B, is 12 servers really enough? Is 24 kilowatts really going to be enough for a proper size swimming pool? Yes, it's going to save money, but realistically, how well is this going to be deployed either throughout the UK? And if you read the news, there's about 2,000 UK leisure centre swimming pools, of which about 70 to 80% are facing quote-unquote closure because it's now too expensive to heat them. This is going to have a large upfront cost if the leisure centres doing it themselves. They've got to find a way for the servers to actually be used, whether that's for internal infrastructure, which isn't going to be demanding on compute, or it's going to be used externally. There has to be security for that in the networking. Or is there going to be a company like the one in this press release that's actually going to go out and install server racks at whatever cost to the leisure centre in order to help them save money in the long term? And, what's the payoff going to be at 3, 5, 7 years? It's kind of like installing solar panels. At what point does the initial cost actually outweigh the long-term energy use case? Now, I'm all for reusing energy. This is a solution. Whether it's the best one, I don't know. What do you guys think? If you love this comment, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit that bell, and we've got some new items on the TechTechPotato merch store. You can have mugs. Let me go get a mug. We've got one of these. This has got my coffee in it. Coffee. There's also one with a Cerebrus wafer scale on, and we've got travel mugs and t-shirts. So go check them out. They're really good.